Hi, and welcome to Launch Over 40 with Yolanda Kennedy. Today, our guest is Penny Sansafree. She is the founder and CEO of Author Marketing Experts, Inc. She is also a bestseller author and internationally recognized book marketing and media relations expert. She is a professor teaching self-publishing for NYU, and her company is one of the leaders in the publishing industry and has developed some of the most innovative social media internet book marketing campaigns. Hi, Penny. It's really nice to have you here on Launch Over 40 today. And, we know that you have years and years of publishing experience. So we're just going to pick your brains today, if that's okay.
Yes, that is great. And thanks so much for inviting me to be on the show.
Well, you're welcome. I'm excited to have you. Now, with the publishing industry, it has definitely changed over the last 15, 20 years. And we see a lot more books being self-published. Could we, get into the self-publishing versus going through a publishing house or even publishing house? Are they even necessary anymore?
Well, yes, we can. And in fact, publishing, so when I was first in business 13 years ago, self-publishing was the little stepchild that was never quite invited to the party. Now, self-publishing has come into its own. So people, like Guy Kawasaki, who are self-publishing their books, and I think Chris Brogan and some of the bigger, some of the big internet guys are all self-publishing, and a lot of big fiction authors and other nonfiction authors are doing it. It's become the new black, right? And it's easy to do, it's inexpensive to do, it's quick to do, and if you do it right, you can make more money. So are traditional publishers necessary? I don't really know. I mean, I got to tell you, I think in the next year or even 2 years, you're going to see that traditional publishers are really having to show their value. It used to be that you have a traditional publisher could get you into bookstores. Well, now you can kind of do that yourself. They could get you into airport stores. Same thing. You can kind of do that yourself. They can do, they have better looking books. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true. I've seen some really brilliant looking self-published titles. So, why are you giving away your money to a traditional publisher just for the sake of, is it, and if it's an ego thing, just admit that and then, and do it. It's either a business or a personal decision. For me, I'm very impatient. I'm a control freak, so I want books the way I want them, because you will sign over your rights to a traditional publisher if you decide to go that route. And I want my books out very quickly. So I've self-published, and I was actually offered a contract, which didn't end up happening, and I'm kind of glad that it didn't, because they were saying, well, we're going to publish your internet book 2 years from now. And I'm like, in 2 years, I have to do 4 updates to that book. I mean, there's just, so the advantages, and I think for most of your listeners, the advantages to self-publishing and doing it right. Because prior to the show, you and I talked about, there's a lot of people trying to make a buck off of an author, which just irritates me. Should you spend money to publish a quality book? Absolutely, but you should spend it wisely.
So we was talking earlier before the show, and then we was talking about co-authoring and how I see so many gurus and organizations trying to basically get other people to co-author. But, when you look into those, it was like, I hate to throw some numbers out, but one was almost like a $3,000 investment. What is that all about?
Well, so those kinds of situations, and again, you just kind of have to use your own best judgment, but those kinds of situations are basically where you're paying to be in in a book, and some people call it an anthology, right? So everybody has a chapter, and then essentially where the publisher makes their money is they make it on selling these chapters or these sections of the book. And most of the time with that $3,000, or sometimes it's even more, you still have to buy 100 or 50 or sometimes even 1,000 copies of the book. So it's a big investment, and you're sharing the space with a bunch of other authors. Now, I will say this: I'm not a fan of that personally, but if there are 20 chapters in a book and there are 20 different authors promoting this book, you're probably going to get out there more. But the other piece of this is you're sharing this book with 20 other people. You got 20 other. You have 20 other voices. How much are you really going to get seen? So I personally wouldn't do it. I don't know that I would recommend it to any of my authors. I think it's right for some people, but I just think I think you can do a lot better on your own.
See, that was my concern because I was looking at that and I thought, well, who's really getting notice here but the person who's putting the book together, because it's almost like articles sometimes on these massive websites. You know, they say you get exposure, but when you go on, if I'm on USA.news, I'm not really paying attention to each individual author. I'm just really going, getting the news I want, and I'm going to the next step.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things that you and I chatted about, again, before we were recording is that you have to really, so if you decide that you want to publish, you have to know who to ask. You have to find people that you can trust. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Publishing, you know, there are 3,500 books published every day in this country. Does that mean that you shouldn't publish? No, it does not. It just means that you need to understand that there's competition out there, and there's no easy way to navigate that competition other than doing the work. And people are welcome to, you know, email me if you have questions about something, because I'm always, we just had a situation with a publisher in Seattle, and there were a whole bunch of books, like 500 books published in this company, and they just went out of business and they closed their doors and they're gone. And it's really heartbreaking because all these authors are now sitting there with books that they've spent, you know, all this time working on that nobody can access. And so, you know, they've been emailing me, not all 500 of them, thank goodness, but they've been emailing me saying, you know, what should I do? And there are solutions to that. I mean, this isn't like the end of the line for their books, but, you know, each of them have been offered, well, if you give us $10,000, we'll help you get your book out of, you know, this company. And I don't know that you have to spend that kind of money. It's like, but people don't know, because publishing tends to be there are a lot of options. It's very confusing.
Yes, and it's a field that unless you're really in the middle of it, you know, where do you even begin to look for help for that? Because, I mean, unfortunately, there's so many websites. When you go to Google and Google it, it is literally hundreds and hundreds of pages. Where do you know who to trust?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you have to find, so the first is you're absolutely right. So who do you trust? I think that you have to sort of find people. So when people come to me, or when they come to some other really solid, reputable folks that we work with, they come to us because they like what we're saying. They come to us because we're not trying to sell them, you know, success on a platter. We're not going, you know, oh, I'm going to turn your book into a movie. Because, you know, we'd all like our books turned into movies, but the reality is it happens very, very rarely, right? You can't really sell that, you know. So you have to find people that you really, you know, you just read their blogs, see what they're saying, and ask, you know, if you ask a publishing person, 10 publishing people the same question, you may get 10 different answers. But at some level, you're going to find that there is a certain amount of consistency because there may be different ways to promote a book, but there are only certain ways to get a quality book published.
Wow, that's very interesting. Because now, you know, with so many books, you said thousands every day. What are the topics, or are there any particular category that is doing a little better than others?
Well, you know, it's funny because there was a time when fiction was really, really hard to promote. And fiction authors would come to us and I'd say, gosh, you know what, I don't know, it's got to be unbelievably well written in order for us to be able to work with it. And that has since changed. And the reason that that's changed is because of the ebooks, right? So fiction is doing extremely well now, genre fiction in particular, so thrillers and romance novels and things like that. But when you're looking at nonfiction, the kind of nonfiction that does unbelievably well is the niche fiction. So a niche nonfiction, rather. So let me give you an example. So I have several books out, and one of them, which is one that I keep revising, is called Red Hot Internet Publicity, and it covers everything from internet, Facebook, yada yada, all this other stuff. But then I have these books, and they're only an ebook, and they're short, so they're under 75 pages, and they're on Amazon. They're about Amazon, how to market on Amazon. Those books outsell my internet book 15-1, and I'll tell you why that is. Because I'm focused in one particular area, I'm solving one particular problem, how to sell more books on Amazon. And people really want that. So for anybody listening, if you're thinking about what to write about, find, so if you own a niche, like let's say real estate, right? So if you want to own the niche of real estate, you can write subtopics under that and feed into this market that says, I just want to know how to sell my first home, or I want to know, I don't understand XYZ. I want to, so you can address that in these individual books. That's not to say that longer, bigger books don't do well, but the niche ones tend to are doing extremely well right now.
And are you referring to your How to Sell Your Books by the Truckload on Amazon, that one?
Yeah, that one. And granted, the title is very catchy, and I get that, but I've had really catchy titles before, and I've never seen a book that has done this well. And I believe that a lot of it has to do with it's a very, very niche focused topic, and also short is the new long. So I still encourage people to write longer books. I think that's great, but there's no reason why you can't put something out there that's under 100 pages and do really well with it.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Because right now, a lot of people are saying this is how to get your name out, write a book. So, so let's go there. You're an author. You actually teach at NYU. So, but let's say someone like myself who has a business, and we're launching, we're getting ourselves out there. People are finding our podcast, and they say, "Oh, well, that's great, but write a book." Is that just a new trend now, or is there really something to say about, having books and being able to say you authored a book?
Well, I think that it is a trend, so it's both things. So it is a trend. However, one of the things that we find that has changed a lot is that ads don't sell as well as they used to. People trust experts, and the quickest way to become an expert is to write a book. Now, hopefully you are an expert and you are writing a book on the topic that you know very well. And so it kind of, so it feeds that need that consumers have to really go with somebody who knows their stuff, right? So that's the first piece of this. The second is that a book is your 24/7 sales tool. So I have people all over. I have some guy in Dubai bought my book, a month ago and said, "Oh gosh, I just read your book. I really loved it. I'd love to set up a marketing call." So that $15 book got me, somebody who contacted me and was already introduced to me and the way that I work via this book, and it is probably the least expensive advertising that you can ever do. So it has longevity to it, because I have people that hold on to my books that bought a book that I wrote 13 years ago, said I still have this book. You know what I mean? Which I'm horrified, because you think, I'm like, oh my God, it's outdated. But but at the same time, so they hang on to it in a way that ads just don't. And not to say that, and I'm not like dissing, I hope nobody listening is running ads or for an advertising company, but they all know, right? I mean, all you have to do is look at the Super Bowl ads and ads just in general to know you have to just entertain the heck out of people to get their attention.
That is true. And I know myself, if I go on Facebook, I'm on there for 2 or 3 seconds, maybe a couple of minutes to do what I need to do, and I'm off. I'm not even paying attention to the things on the side, or like it's almost like I know this advertisement and I'm already zoned in. I'm doing a message to somebody or doing something else for our page, and then I'm off. I'm not even I'm not even focusing on anything that even looks remotely like an ad.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that is the book piece of this. It's easy to do, and as business owners, too, Yolanda, as business owners, we a lot of times have tons of content. So we're writing blog posts, or we're writing white papers, or we are, we have stuff that we can put into a book, and that's the first thing. So if a business owner comes to me and says, okay, I get it, I need to write a book, I don't have the time. Well, you could hire a ghostwriter. Right? I mean, ghostwriters vary widely in their pricing. You could pull content off a blog. You can have your assistant pull together all your content. There are ways that you can, I would bet that most people have, a quarter, if not half of the book already ready to go. It's just a matter of pulling it together.
So you're saying it seems a little more